When I say the east shore of Maryland's Chesapeake Bay, you might be thinking oysters and blue crabs, and I'm not faulting that. I am right there with you. But you should also be thinking about the mysterious Sika deer that have rapidly colonized this area over the last 100 years. They're small, they're sneaky, they make crazy sounds, they have cool antlers, and produce some of the best venison that you'll ever enjoy. What is not to like? I'm Steven Ranella. To me, hunting isn't only about the pursuit of an animal. It's about who we are and what we're made of. I live to hunt and hunt to live. I am a meat eater. The marshlands of the Delmarva Peninsula. It takes its name from the three states who share it: Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. It forms the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay. The top of the bay is home to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., with its sprawling suburbs. But down here at the bottom end of Delmarva, and what's known as Maryland's eastern shore, you'd almost think you're in a different country. People are well connected to the land and water, the food is unique, the culture is distinct, and even the deer are different.
The entertainment value of sitting out in the open marsh, I'm just catching glimpses of deer splashing around, playing grab ass. But it does feel like there's a real kind of randomness to where they travel and where they go.
The shoreline marshes here are inhabited by Sika deer, sometimes known as Japanese deer, which are native to much of East Asia. In a bit, we'll get into how they came to be here. But first, I have to tell you about the Sika deer's roar, which is a combination of the American elk's majestic bugle and something that you might get if you gave a kid a plastic cavalry trumpet. That's it right there, and that's why we're here right now. It's the Sika deer rut, when the stags are running wild and making a racket in the marsh as they battle over females or hinds throughout the cool October days.
That's a stag chasing a female with her fawn, just harassing her. It's hundreds of yards away, but it still makes you kind of excited just to see it happening.
On the other side of the marsh, my good friend and hunting partner Ryan Callahan is on his first ever Sika hunt. We live near each other in his home state of Montana, so this is far from familiar to him.
Super fun, going to a new spot, new place, entirely new species. Enough helping hand to be in a good enough spot to where you're not just like totally bumbling around wasting your time.
Right now it's archery season, which we're gonna hit for a few days before things roll over into muzzleloader season, when the meat harvest will get serious. Between archery, muzzleloader, and the later general firearm season, a hunter can bring home 9 of these deer.
Everything looks good, man. We're like highly confident in the spot, so we'll see what happens.
But Cal and I are not rolling totally cold here. We're hunting with our mutual friend, Steve Kendrott, a professional wildlife biologist who originally moved down here in order to run a successful eradication program on a far more destructive non-native species, the nutria. He has a detailed knowledge of the region's ecology and knows Sika deer as well as anyone.
They're just a very charismatic species. They're really vocal. They're susceptible to calling, just like elk are.
Yeah.
So you can really have a lot of fun with them.
He and a group of acquaintances lease the hunting rights on this vast chunk of marshland from the Nature Conservancy, a nonprofit land and water conservation organization that allows the harvest of these non-native deer in order to mitigate their ecological impact.
So in this state, you can bait on private land.
Correct.
You can't bait on public land.
Correct.
But then you get the hunting privileges here from Nature Conservancy.
Correct.
And they prohibit baiting. On the
Actually,
on the lease.
the Conservancy doesn't prohibit it per se, but since I sort of manage the lease, I get to make a couple rules of my own. And
Oh, so that's your rule?
yeah, it's my rule. I don't really enjoy hunting over bait. And when you got a group of guys sort of on a property like this, once one person starts baiting, well, then everyone else has to feel like they've got to start baiting and to compete with each other. And that's not the kind of atmosphere I want to create for the guys that are involved with this club. So,
while most Sika deer are killed over bait piles, you can't use bait on this land. Without bait, we hunt the old-fashioned way. Read sign, predict movements, then get yourself into a tree and do a combination of calling and hoping.
But people still fill tags.
we fill quite a few tags every year. We kill some nice stag. That bugle call, you know, can bring them in. One time they'll come racing in like a freight train, and another time they'll come tippy-toeing in, circling downwind, and you hardly know they're there until they're right underneath you. And then many times they just never show.
Yeah, the frustrating thing is like the calling hasn't been what I would equate to like, I'm coming to find you. It's more like, I'm here, I'm in my spot.
Yeah, it's not a high probability thing, but when it does work, it can be damn exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really believe it at first, but pretty much every call I've heard has been in 3.
Oh. Yeah, the bugle is like 3. Sometimes you'll hear 4.
I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Now that I'm here, it's just got a lot to figure out.
Yeah, I'm not like usually like exotics and stuff. I'm just not that. Like I'm interested, but not that fired up. But I can see with these things, it's just like there's something pretty cool about it.
All right, good luck, boys.
Good luck.
In addition to the Sika deer being non-native here, so is one of the dominant vegetation species, this crazily tall and thick grass known as Phragmites. First off, it's a bitch to walk through. Second, it provides ideal habitat for the introduced deer. They spend a lot of their time hiding in here, but will venture out in the early mornings and late evenings to feed. This morning, I'm setting up where the grass meets the timber, hoping to catch the deer as they move to their bedding areas. The marsh is alive with noise. Birds, footsteps through the water, and most bizarrely, the roars or bugles of stags.
Just had a female, which they call a hind, feeding around at 70 yards. So that's a good sign. Not spooked, very calm, feeding. As long as stuff like that keeps happening, it'll happen.
By late morning, things settle down and go quiet. I head off in the direction where I was hearing most of the bugles, out toward the edge of the open marsh. Kendrot was predicting that the wind would be okay for a move like this with my smell blowing away from the animals. Hopefully, I'll find the perfect place for an evening sit.
First timer. There's a stag that just called off behind us. May have absolutely nothing to do with my calling, but it makes me feel better to be an active participant. I just hope it's interested enough to come check it out.
While Cal and I hunt from the trees, Kendra is working in toward a stag that he's hearing out in the open marsh.
The other morning, there was a big stag working this dead timber island in front of us. So kind of hopefully he's still there and maybe he'll respond.
He's calling, using both the mews of a hind and the roars of a stag in order to hopefully bring the deer closer. When he gets to the edge of an opening, he stops and does more calling.
There he is.
It works.
He's working this way. Pretty cautiously, though. He's just looking, trying to figure out where the heck we are. Where that call is coming from. He knows it's supposed to be right here. Wow. Oh, man. That was awesome. It really gets your heart pumping when they come in like that.
The stag approached and passed close by, but Kendra is a cautious hunter who knows the limitations of his gear. With the deer obscured by brush, he allowed it to pass without letting an arrow fly. That is maturity.
Had some action in the tree. Doe came in, made me think all sorts of fun things.
All three of us come up empty-handed, but what a cool and exciting day. We saw deer, we heard deer, Kendra had a close call, and we still have plenty of time to make things happen out here in the marsh. So spirits are high. Just as cool, I have a little side trip lined up for the morning. It involves blue crabs, rising ocean levels, chicken necks, all kinds of interesting stuff. Kendra has hooked me up with his buddy Trevor Michaels. For a guy born on the wrong side of Maryland, Trevor's about as close as you could come to being what the locals of the East Shore call a waterman. He traps, goes crabbing, hunts mushrooms, fishes, sets eel pots, chases ducks and deer, and eats a diet of wild game.
What don't you do? You do rockfish, which everyone knows is a striped bass. You guys are wacky and call it a rockfish. And then oysters, crabs.
I'll trap anything I can.
So you're like a certifiable waterman.
Kind of, although, but I'm not
Like
commercial.
you're borderline?
So they wouldn't call, I don't think they'd call you a waterman unless you were doing it commercially.
I got you. Did you say Sika or Sika?
Sika.
Sika. I'm running Sika. Because if I say Sika, people think you're talking about Sika blacktail.
Yeah.
Considering my interest in Sika deer, he decides to motor me over to what might be regarded as Sika Ground Zero.
So that little clump of trees
Yep.
and that little clump of trees over there on the horizon were one island.
Yep.
James Island.
James Island. It was attached when they first discovered it.
It was attached
but
to that
apparently
island.
even at the beginning of the 20th century, they could still, on a low tide, they could still walk out to the island. I mean, you can't do that anymore.
Here on James Island in the early 1900s, a man named Clement Henry introduced 5 or 6 of the deer which had arrived from Japan via the UK. They reproduced, their offspring swam off the island, one thing led to another, and now you've got an estimated population of around 12,000 in the surrounding marsh. Those deer that escaped were lucky in hindsight, as their island home in Chesapeake Bay is now mostly gone.
So you're literally watching it disappear.
Yeah. That's a lot of places around here. You can watch them disappear. I mean, this is kind of the epicenter for sea level rise, especially on the East Coast, kind of like Alaska is, you know? But on the East Coast, because we're so low down here and these marshes are so low, you see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's extremely dynamic, and you see it every day.
That is nuts. That used to like support, that it had houses?
Yeah, there's a town.
And now it's just little wisps of trees.
Yeah, and when they introduced Sika, I don't think there's any houses left at that point. Everyone had moved off of it, but it was still substantially larger than it is now.
So in another 100 years, it'll be gone.
It'll be gone before that, I bet.
From that sobering little bit of sightseeing, we head to what we're supposed to be doing, crabbing. In a year, Chesapeake Bay supports a harvest of around 58 million pounds of blue crabs, and we're hoping to get a few of those for ourselves.
So right now, you're just looking for a channel, like a deeper channel?
Yeah, female crabs, mature females. They migrate in the fall down the bay to the mouth.
Okay.
And that's where they lay their eggs.
Trevor has a license to catch blue crabs recreationally using a trotline. a word used mostly to describe a type of gear used for catfish.
Ah. It's a lot of work, man.
That's why I baited ahead of time.
Just strung all chicken nets.
Yeah.
We're setting our gear in a submerged channel that's just a couple feet deeper than the surrounding mudflats. The line is 1,200 feet long, or the length of 4 football fields. He's got a slip knot about every arm span down the line, with each knot holding a couple-inch hunk of raw chicken neck, one of the more popular crab baits, next to using chunks of American eel.
The other interesting thing I've found with these is they don't like the fat or the skin. Occasionally you'll have them with the skin. I used to just tie them on like that. They wouldn't eat them.
They like because they can't get through it?
Yeah, they want that meat.
I like it. I like it. You know that song, he can skin a buck, he can run a trot line?
Yeah.
Where I grew up, everybody thought it was trout line, and I was always running around correcting everybody.
When I was real little, I didn't know what a trot line was, but I knew it from crabbing.
Oh.
I thought when I first heard that song when I was little, I was like,
You thought he saw, you thought he's a crab?
crabbing.
You thought he's a crab man?
Yeah.
Not a catfish man?
The line is anchored on each end in good crab country, stretched as tight as a banjo string, and marked with buoys. The baits lay along the bottom in 6 feet of water. Amazingly, the amount of time it takes for us to get from one end of the line to the other is all the time it takes for the crabs to find it. We then lift an end of the line over a fabricated arm of PVC pipe and putt along checking the baits. The crabs hang on to the bait tenaciously enough to be lifted almost to the water's surface before they spook and drop away. The netter's job is to nab them before they do.
See that?
There you go. That one's nice.
That's a waterman for you right there, man.
That's a nice crab there. That's what I like to see. You got it down. You're a quick learner. A lot of people struggle with this, believe it or not.
Ah!
Oh, nice crab, too.
Oh, I can see now you gotta have a knack for this, huh?
For us, any blue crab shorter than 5 1/4 inches across the carapace from point to point has to go back in the water. We have a vessel limit of 1 bushel, regardless of the actual quantity of crabs within. That is a pretty healthy haul.
Good work.
We can keep only males, which they call jimmies. A rusty jimmy is preferable to a white-bellied jimmy because it's had more time to fill out its shell with meat since its last molting, when it shed its previous shell and formed a new one to allow for growth. In case you're wondering, a female is a sook, an immature female a Sally.
They teach kids that females have painted fingernails.
Painted fingernails?
Yeah, those bright red tips.
I like it.
My advice to any crabber, gloves. Those claws are small, but they pack a pinch.
The other thing we got to do is make sure they're upright in that basket,
Got you.
because they'll die pretty quick if they're upside down. My least favorite part of this process.
With a limit of blue crabs, we head in for an East Shore crab boil. While we wait for the others to arrive, Trevor shows me how he likes to fix blue crab.
Vinegar smells good, man. Boiling vinegar.
It starts with apple cider vinegar rather than water.
So you're committed to no boiling. That's just like,
It's not the Maryland way.
it's anathema to Maryland.
Yeah. I prefer apple cider. People use white.
And then what do you got there?
J.O. seasoning.
You guys don't run Old Bay, like in the Old Bay?
Some people do. I prefer this one.
J.O. What's J.O. stand for?
I think it's the owner, but yeah, it's local.
Once the crabs are piled into the pot, Trevor just throws in a bunch of handfuls of new potatoes. Then we'll let them steam for about 20 or 30 minutes. Pretty simple.
What's happening?
Hey guys.
How's it going? Hey, Trevor.
Good. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
How's the crabbing today?
It was good.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's the whole damn bushel steaming in there.
Sweet.
And they don't run Old Bay.
No Old Bay?
They run J.O.
Local seasoning.
Oh.
Which Old Bay's local too, to be fair, but I prefer J.O. So
Guy in our office is a Maryland kid. He's Old Bay on everything.
Yeah.
Can't wait to one-up him on J.O. Be like, Old Bay.
crab's done.
Crab's done.
Yeah.
Good work, boys.
A bushel is plenty to go around, so Trevor's wife, Ellen, joins us. Conversation turns naturally to shelling crabs, which is an issue of much concern hereabouts.
Usually get this guy up. Technically, that's his reproductive organs.
Oh, that's cool.
Pull the top shell off.
I've seen bigger.
Remove the gills, and then I split them in half and peel away the outer shell. So that back fin meat is like your primo jumbo lump.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's all meat.
Man, that is good.
That's a nice one. It's a fatty.
Yeah, it's like way different than a Dungeness, man. It's like all the stuff's like,
Inside.
it's all small, you know?
Harder to get to. They're making you work for it.
Yeah.
I actually had to participate in a crab picking contest in front of a couple thousand people, competing against all of the professional ladies that pick for the picking houses.
How'd you do?
It was humiliating.
Oh, you got to get good if you're doing it commercially, man. I can imagine you really get a talent set.
They picked like a dozen in like
Less
4
than
minutes.
4 minutes?
Really?
Yeah.
Gotta be nice to eat with someone like that, man.
I know, right?
We got a friend who says that you'd have to be an idiot to starve on the eastern shore of Maryland. Always amazes me the things that you can just get for free out there. That
Yeah. A little bit of
work
effort,
a little work for them.
a little bit of knowledge.
A little bit of not being a total lazy ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy, I am just pitiful at this.
A lot of practice.
There's a reason people go so crazy about these crabs. They're sort of tedious, but in the best possible way. After all, how many kinds of eating do you actually have to learn how to get good at? Yet while the labor to reward ratio is skewed in the crab's favor, the payoffs are delicious, exceptionally good, and fun. I kick around the idea of spending another day on the bay chasing crabs, but I know that the real culinary reward is out there in the marsh. Tomorrow, we start to get serious about Sika.